Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and a very good evening to Dr. Muhammad Reza Muhammad Afla. My name is Dalila binti Muhammad Azahari. I am an interior design student and this is my presentation on the Imagining Penang South Island project. First off, the introduction. The Penang South Islands project or PSI started off in 2015 from the Penang Transport Master Plan. And it is said to be funded from the auction of the two plots of land reclaimed at the south coast of Penang, which is the PSI. What this means is the project development will be financed by the sale of land, while the remaining funds will go towards other infrastructure and transport projects on the Penang Island. The PSI, also known as the Three Islands Project, is a total of 1,821 hectares, and it will consist of residential, commercial and industrial use. This project has received disapproval and objections from a certain group of people, mainly fishermen, since it was introduced. So what is land reclamation project and how will PSI be executed? The land reclamation project can also be defined as a process of creating new land from the sea. It involves simply filling an area with large quantities of heavy rock and or cement, then filling it with clay and soil until it reaches the desired height. So how will the PSI be executed? The brains behind the PSI project or the biodiversity is the Denmark-based Bjarke Ingels Group. They will be working along with Rambo, a company from Denmark, and Hijaz Architect and Planners, formerly known as Hijaz Kasturi Associates. They were appointed this project in August 2020 through a competition. The biodiversity will get its 189 million cubic meters sand and soil from Perak, which will ultimately destroy the marine life ecosystem there as well, and impacting the local fisherman community that involves 6,000 livelihoods. In Malaysia, other than the PSI project, Forest City, which is a man-made island in Johor, also involves a large-scale land reclamation project. So how does the Penang South Island Reclamation Project affects the biomarine life and natural resources? As the Sahabat Alam Malaysia said, the result of land reclamation implanted across Malaysia is thousands of hectares of fishing grounds and marine habitat have disappeared or damaged over the years. It will affect the seabed, flora and fauna due to millions and tons of marine sand that will be mined and the rocks quarried to create the new land. The seabed or the benthic zone and the sea meadow habitats will also be destroyed. The amount of siltation of water will significantly increase. So it will destroy the richest fishery, the natural mangrove line coastlines. We will lose 5 total landing sites in Malaysia. The seabed ecosystem will also be destroyed, and it will change the landscape and affects wildlife habitat around Penang. We will also lose the vulnerable olive ridley turtle, the Indo-Pacific humpback dolphin, which is also known as the pink dolphin, and the Indo-Pacific finless porpoise, which is very rare. Reclamation project will change the water area and the length of coastlines. The most representative change in the intertidal area is the region that can be measured according to the terrain details, knowing only the highest and lowest water level during the tidal period. It was said that it will be drowned by the mud and of the land which had been reclaimed. Also, the contamination in coastal water. According to J.L. Stauber from ScienceDirect.com, land reclamation of Prai in Penang and Kuala Juru for industrial purposes has threatened cockle farming because of the high levels of heavy metals and sedimentation. It has been found that the level of mercury in water is 460 times higher than the permissible level in the United States. So the marine habitats will definitely permanently lost on the site of the reclaimed land. So how does the Penang South Island affect the local community and the environment? 5 years after Penang South Islands project was proposed, fishermen are holding to their stand in opposing this project completely. We are a country with one of the world's richest marine life. We should be exporting fish to other countries. Nazir Ahmad, which is the Penang Fisher Association chairman, said this. To him and many other fishermen, compensations given by the developers and government equals to nothing to them, as the sea that they're about to destroy is their whole life. Rich breeding grounds for several species of fish were the coastal areas designated for the reclamation project. Due to concerns regarding the fisheries, an environmental impact assessment or EIA was rejected in 2018, but then it was approved on June 25 last year. One of the fishermen interviewed said that he was completely shocked when the news of this new development broke out. From his point of view, the fishermen villages will not gain anything from this project, at least in his lifetime. He added that if they leave the coast as is, or maybe help rebuilding the community around the area, they would thrive in catching fishes and making ends meet as usual. So it comes to the conclusion and recommendations that could help the biodiversity concept in terms of landscape planning. At the end of the day, despite the repetitive thrice of cancelling and suspending the project by various NGOs and demonstrations, this project is set to start its process next year. This year. So one of the recommendations that I have is that law enforcement authorization to the construction industry involved in the PSI project should be carried out gradually with strict inspections and law enforcement, especially at the early stage of the project. This way, the awareness on the environmental impacts caused by the construction is going to be primarily raised among project directors. Next, controlling pollution to minimize the contamination of coastal water and Penang water values. It is a very necessary intervention that will be very useful in dealing the PSI project. It will be the step to control environmental pollution in all aspects. The adverse climatic changes due to water, air, and soil pollution also should be controlled in the early steps of the project. Lastly, we should restrict over-aggressive coastal developments to minimize the loss of marine habitats. In this case, government can only use relevant coastal legislations. Besides from the 3 reclaimed islands, to boost other activities such as trade, we should especially focus on protecting and not to be so aggressive on the coral reefs, turtle landing areas, and mangrove areas. To come to terms with the community affected, the government should also propose a compensation as long as they get back on their own feet, which would take about 15 to 20 years' time, not a one-time compensation. The people involved in this project should find a safe way to replenish and flourish the fishermen tradition and livelihood that is stolen and lost by this project.